Hi, it's Pete the Bumbling Modeler back again. So we're up to the decaling stage on this little truck now. So what I've done, off camera, sorry, is I've put a little coat of gloss varnish on the doors, the front wing and the rear tailgate where the decals are going to go, just to make sure they bed down properly. You probably don't need it because the paint finish is quite smooth anyway, but nothing to lose there. So initially we're going to put the decals on, then let them dry overnight, give it a little wash down to get any residue from the decals off, then another coat of gloss varnish to seal them in, and then we can give a matte coat to the rest of the whole truck to bed them all down, and then we're ready to do the final touches. So this is probably going to be the longest part of the whole build process because you have to wait days in between. So it's going to be a 3-day process by the time you've decaled, sealed them in, and then put a matte coat down, whereas the whole little truck was built and painted in a day. So I've cut the decals we need off the sheet. It's the RAF version, so we've only got this little number 2, a roundel, an RAF on each door, and a roundel on the back. What I will do before I go any further is just trim off the numbers, because they've got an annoying habit of coming off with the decal and floating around and breaking up and put little black pieces of scuzz on the model itself. And as there's so few decals, it's not going to be the end of the world. So I shall decal the way I normally decal, and you'll see what's going on. So what I'll do is put one on so you get a picture of it. I'll keep the camera running, and then sorry, I'll probably try and speed it up so you get an idea of the process I use, but 2 or 3 times the normal speed so you don't get bored sitting there watching, because I'm aware I make these things go on quite long. So I'll just get myself prepared and then I'll be back with you. Okay, right, we've got all our equipment. So we've got my trusty tweezers, we've got the decals, we've got a paintbrush I only really use for decaling, so it's not contaminated with anything. And this is normal tap water in a squeezy bottle. Now, rather than put water in a saucer and try and keep it warm and all the stuff you read, I find if I just put a little blob on the desk, it stays at a nice room temperature, because we're at room temperature and it's not a big volume, so it won't heat up or cool down, so you don't get cold water making decals brittle. And I'll pick the chosen decal, put it upside down in the water, and watch till I see capillary action pull water all the way across the back. Once that's fully saturated, which is now, I'll just put it to one side and let that soften up. Initially I'll just do this one decal just to see what's happening, but once I get in a roll I'll put one in while I'm working with one. I just don't know how long these will take to release from the backing paper, so I'll keep this running, but I'll probably cut this bit out, so there'll be a silence now while I decide when this is ready to go. It's nothing like ready to move yet, so just leave it a minute or two. But say if you know you've got a long working time, you can get the next one pre-prepared, ready to put on. So let's see where we get into. I don't know if I went off camera then, probably did. I get a bit impatient, to be honest. I should just walk away and let that soften naturally. You won't overflood it with water because it's only the water on the paper that's releasing it, so it won't wash all the decal glue off it. It's just I like to rush things a little bit. Right, this isn't the approved way, but say it's starting to slide under my fingers now, so I know that's released, and I'll put the second RAF one in to wait while this is going. And the reason I'm using the decal in the water upside down is it's less likely to curl, and when it curls it can be a bit of a pain. So while that's soaking, just put a blob of water where we want to go. Reach for a cotton bud because I forgot we'll need a couple of those. and get me RAF decal. And again, they say never touch it with your fingers, but yeah, right. Roughly place it, put a bit of paper out of the way because that'll be a gummy mess. And this one, if it doesn't move easily, tapping along, just get a bit of water underneath it and it'll float round to where you want it. And judging by our placement guide, that's not a million miles out, is it? To make it the same on either side, which doesn't really matter because you're not going to look at two sides at once. I'll get the top of that R lined up height-wise with the door handle. There's a dog hair there, sorry. Then, now she's on. Meanwhile, take this fella out because that's fully soaked. Roll. Any water out from underneath it. Little raised bit there. I think that's because I've got a mark in the paintwork. That'll be hidden with the various coats of varnish. So that's the first decal done. Now what I'm going to do quickly is just stop this and see if any of that was off camera before I carry on, because I've got a feeling I've got a slightly different camera angle and I might have been working off camera. So I'll be back in a minute. No, I think that was all on camera. So we've got this decal soaking. Why that's in there, I'll just throw in the number 2 to soften quickly. This one will be ready to go now because of the length of time we left it. So again, a little bit of water on the door just to give it some lubrication, slide round, pick up our decal. Try not to touch one on the other side because if my finger touches that, it's going to be a soggy mess. Gently slide that off. Paper out the way. Manipulate it around till the writing's about level with the door handle. Make sure it looks square to the eye. And again, say if you could see both sides simultaneously, you want these absolutely spot on, but you can't. So if that one's slightly out of place, the other one, you'll never pick up on that because it's going to sit on a shelf against the wall and no one's ever going to see what we're doing. So hopefully we're on camera. And that's the second one sort of done. There's a finish to all these I'll do in a minute. I just want to get these down first. So, yep, there's no obvious bumps and lumps there, so we're all right. We'll get the number 2 out. And this is going to be a very, very quick decaling job. In the meantime, we'll chicken an RAF roundel. Then once we put the number 2 in, we'll put the final one on. So that's soaked right through. Second wet on the side. If number 2 is ready, yep, the number 2 is slippy already because it's a smaller decal. So it's going in the centre of this. Now I'm going to take a bit of a chance on this. Try and do it without putting the paper over the thing because it's such a small area. So we just gently pop him in there. Square that up as well as we can. And just stab at it with the cotton bud to get any moisture out. And why I said we'll wash it down when we're all set, things like this bit of paper will leave gluey little marks on that. So we'll give the whole body a wash before we put another gloss coat and a satin coat on it. Let's try and get some of that water out there. And then with one roundel out, we can chuck the other one in. Just check I haven't touched that. No, there's no fingerprint in that. It's a bit annoying. There's a little mark on that edge where there's a bump in the paint, but we'll lose that with the setting solution, which isn't really a setting solution, but I'll talk about that when I do it. So roundel on, quite easy. It's round, so you don't have to line it up. It has picked up something. bench. So they give you a placement for it slightly above that fella. We're not overly panicky about these things as long as it looks about right. Now this one has got a compound curve to it, so it won't sit as flat as you like at first, but I'm going to deal with that in a minute. You wanted to stay there, aren't you, no matter what I do? Right, let's just try and get some of that moisture out so it sticks down. Now you'll notice, I don't know if you can see it, it's slightly creasing because of the curve that way, and it's a flat decal, but as I say, there is a way around that. Just get this last one on, then we'll go into that way around it. So it's on this side, somewhere in that. Are you not ready to come off yet? There you go. That dog has come back to haunt me. Right, get that bit of paper out of the way. I'll put him about there, which where it seems to be. And again, there's a little bit of raised detail here that's stopping the decal sitting down, but don't worry about that yet. Let's just get these on. And there's ways of tidying that up. Right. Okay, we're back to recording again. Sorry, I'll say that again because I'm going to cut that first bit out. We're back to recording again. So, this decal isn't sitting quite as flat as we'd like. Scratch from that. That'll wash off. And this one, again, we've got this problem where it's raised up because it has to fold around the compound curve. That could cause a problem. I'll be telling you how to suck eggs, but the two products normally used that is Microset and Microsol. So that one will help the decal adhere to the model, and that'll soften it so it conforms. It basically half dissolves it. They're fine, but they're quite expensive, so I use them selectively. What I do use a lot with Tamiya decals is X20A thinners. It's got to be the acrylic thinners, but Tamiya decals are quite thick. So they respond quite well to this because it dissolves them, but it won't completely blow them away. If you use a more delicate decal, this is a bit strong. So what you tend to do is, I've got all the excess moisture off that brush. I'll just give it a good swirl round to make sure what I'm getting is the thinners. And this is really the only time I use the thinners. Just get that off my fingers. So if you get a little blob of this on, you don't want to flood it because you are going to soften the paper around it as well. And you just put that on the decal. That will start to dissolve that decal so it sort of conforms into place. And you don't rush it. You just put a coat on, thin coat, and leave it. The same with this one on the front. Those little creases you can see, they should disappear over time. It'll go a bit wrinkly because it is melting the decal down a bit, but you'll just put a little coat on that. And don't overwork it because, say, you are softening the paint. And while we're at it, we can put a little coat on that number 2 to make sure it's sitting down because it will dissolve into the surface. And there's little bumps and lumps on this RAF one where it's just sitting up on bits of dust in the paint. So we'll just give that a coat. And that'll just help melt it into the surface and get rid of those lumps and bumps. And then the trick is then leave well alone and let the magic happen. So they'll start to soften and dissolve and pull into the surface. Do that, and then repeat it several times if you need to. The more complicated the curve, the more you need to repeat it. It's that RAF one, that rear round, that's probably it. I've got a feeling I'll probably have to come back and attack this roundel here so it really pulls down. But that's a process of going away for 10 or 15 minutes, coming back, going away. So you've seen how we do it. I'll switch off the camera now. I can do this off camera, then show you when it's all sorted out. But that's the process. Using this gentle brush on. Don't flood it, just soften the surface and let it do its work. And it will wrinkle and bubble up while that attacks it, but when it dries, it'll pull it hard down onto the model surface, hopefully. So we shall see that next time you see me. So thanks for looking at that for now, and we'll see you in a minute. Okay, actually I think I kept that running so you brought some extra footage, but we'll ignore that. So that's done. So these weren't a problem, these RAF ones, they'd set down. This roundel here, you can see now there's a few bits of wrinklage still on the corner, but it's conformed pretty well to the compound curves, that wing. I think what I'll do when the video's off is I'll just give this one the lightest coat and just leave it overnight now, and that'll dry out and settle down. This one's fine. There's a few little marks in the paint it's conforming to, but that's all right because that'll disappear when we put another gloss coat and a matte coat. And this back one, you can see hopefully that it's actually conformed to that little step in the panel work, so it's actually sitting in that little area quite nicely. So what I would say is with this, using X28, make sure you know your decals. I know it's good with Tamiya. If you've got a decal sheet, obviously you're going to get some spare ones, but you may not want to use those as a test piece because you might want them for another model. But don't forget this bit where it's saying 1/48 light utility car. I don't know if you can catch in the light. That is actually an individual decal the same as those. So you can always put that onto a piece of scrap model and try a setting solution on it, see if it affects it. Same with this bit here. So the actual maker's name and the description are sort of decals as well. So if you're ever unsure and you don't want to ruin something you could potentially use for another model, just cut these off, try slapping them onto something, put the decal setting solutions you've chosen on, and just make sure it doesn't dissolve it straight away. Some are more virulent than others, and some decals are weaker than others. Tamiya decals are notoriously quite thick, so you can get away with it. So why I'm not going to do anything now until for 24 hours is that setting solution is softening that decal and shrinking it so it pulls onto the surface. So you want to make sure all that shrinkage has happened before you put a gloss coat, and otherwise that'll move under the gloss coat, and if the gloss coat grips it, it'll start to crack the decal. So make sure it's thoroughly dry. And I'm impatient, so waiting 24 hours is a nuisance for me, but I'll do it just because I've learnt from bitter mistakes. If you don't, you've got a whole world of pain. So then we'll give it a wash because there'll be bits of gluey residue off those on the surface, then gloss coat. And when you see it again, it'll all be glossed and probably matted, ready for the next stage. But just to give it that extra bit, because I'm not going to touch it all day, just give it the lightest of coats over those, just to give it that extra little bit of shrinkage to really melt it into the model. Particularly concentrating on this one because this one's had to move the most to conform to that compound curve. But I'm quite happy the way that's ended up. So just don't let any blobs in one area. Make sure it's evenly wetted all over, otherwise you get funny watermarks. And then this one, just a little touch. And again, don't be vigorous on your paint because it will be softening your paint as you work. Try not to touch anything that's now got the setting solution on because it'll be squidgy and soft. That one another coat. That one another coat. That one because I've got some on the brush still and it was lighter. And then put that down, walk away and leave it. Don't touch it, don't stab it with cotton buds. It's something I always do and always regret. Just don't go near it. So I tend to normally decal just before bed, so I'm not tempted to touch it. Get it all ready, then go to bed. Then in the morning, everything's dry and pick it up and touch it. But let's put him out of the way there. But now we can see it's starting to look like a proper model now. It's starting to look quite nice. Decals always do inspire you to finish because they do look quite pretty when they're done. Let's get these bits of paper out of the way as well. They'll glue to your cutting mat like anything if you don't throw them straight away. So that's where we are with that. I say next time you see it, it'll probably be have a gloss and matte coat on it. Then we can start to do the final bit of assembly. So thanks for watching if you've stuck with me so far, and yeah, we'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.